I've made this video so many times. Hello everybody, we're going to be talking about diversity. I'm just going to dive right into the first of these characteristics that I chose, and that was actively recruits a diverse staff of educators. Why is this necessary for cultural responsiveness in schools? This is necessary because we need to be having equal representation of all races, genders, ages in our schools to show kids they want to be a teacher, which sometimes is a very big influence in their lives besides their parents. They can step into that successful leadership role. Anyone can. We want to have diverse representation in schools to make sure that kids are hearing from multiple cultures, to try and prevent some racism and microaggressions and just being around more people that are different. And also to provide role models, I think. An example of this not happening in schools, I would say, is the American school system at this time. You know, we heard it all throughout college that a lot of our population is changing. There is eventually going to be more Latinos, Latinas, and African Americans in America than, Caucasian people. That's our textbook last semester or a couple semesters ago in the culture of responsive classroom kind of referenced that, how who the majority and who the minority is changing, and we're seeing more diversity in cross-cultural, mixing in the US. But yet all the teachers are still white females from similar backgrounds, I would argue. So there's obviously not a lot of representation going on in the diversity. My school, for example, has one African American teacher. That's kind of ridiculous. And there's a fine line. I'm not saying, we're just going to hire you because you look this way. We're going to hire the best person for the job. But we do need to be doing a better job of making the role of an educator more attractive to all people from all walks of life. Because the majority of my students are African American and are Latino. And although, yes, I can be a role model for them, how powerful is it to have someone that looks just like you and kind of reminds you a little bit of themselves, and they're in a leadership role? I think that speaks volumes. Volumes. So the second characteristic I'm going to talk about is has a curriculum that fairly and accurately reflects the contributions of many cultures. We know that history and curriculum is honestly written by the majority. It could be biased. So having curriculum materials that pull from different cultures and authentic pieces from those cultures is going to be so powerful. Why this is needed, in my opinion, you often hear students say, why am I learning this? How is this relevant to my life? This has nothing to do with my life. Well, if we can take aspects of the children's cultures and weave it into math problems, weave it into literature, social studies, weave it into science, how is this relevant? What are you experiencing? It makes it a bit more engaging for them, and they can relate to the learning and see that it is authentic and it does relate to their lives. Also, I believe that education is for the betterment of society, right? We try to do better with every generation. So to have curriculum that reflects the contributions of many cultures is going to hopefully spread knowledge, cultural competence about other cultures, and maybe diversity and stereotyping racism that we could have prevented in the past, and we're just trying to do better. An example of a school having this in place was one of my professors in college did a really amazing job at weaving culture into the curriculum in a way that was not stereotypical and was not offensive. He would just do really some deep listening with his students, and whatever they were excited about, whether that was something not so cultural like Spider-Man or something pretty cultural like their mom's tamales, and once the students naturally were talking about those things and he noticed, he would weave it into math problems. And it would just make it so much more engaging for the students. And it normalizes having various cultures in the curriculum. So I feel like that was really a powerful thing. But you do have to be careful. The caveat with that is, don't just look at a student and be like, oh, you're from this group, you belong to this group of people. I'm just going to throw this into the math problem and assume this about you, and that's cultural responsiveness. No, it really does take some deep listing, because we are all individuals within our culture. The last characteristic, just clicked off one page. The last characteristic I want to talk about is number 3, and it has the same high academic expectations for all students. This is important to be a part of a culturally responsive environment, because we are saying that all students, no matter where you come from, no matter what race or culture, are capable of succeeding. Historically, in the past, we have put many groups of people down and lesser and labeled as not intelligent, and we haven't had the same expectations for them. People of color, disabled people, immigrants even, females in education, all of those people, ESL, or bilingual students. Historically, education has put them down, has had low expectations for them, because they were seen as being lesser just because they didn't have knowledge of the American culture, or they didn't speak English, or they didn't fit the mold of a white successful male student. Well, now that we've learned a little bit more and improved ourselves, we can see that what you believe about a kid in your mind is what is going to play out in their behavior. If you think that one kid's bad, and you say bad, you're not worthy of anything, that negative self-talk, they're going to internalize that, and that's how they're going to start acting. So we want to lift all cultures up, all students up, and have high expectations for all of them. An example of this, I would say, is in my school right now. I have 3 students. This is kind of the mixture I got going on. I have 3 students who have autism. I have 3 students who are English language learners who speak primarily Spanish. Majority of my class is African American and Latino. Despite all of those cultural differences, all of those differences in the groups they belong to, I have the same expectations for all of them. I think they all can be successful. I think they're all held to the same rules in my classroom and standards. And so far, they have been really successful, because I don't think of them as lesser, or you can't accomplish this because of XYZ. Okay, last but not least, given the current circumstances in our school and according to your perspective, how easy or difficult is it to be culturally responsive? That's a good question. I think it is difficult to be culturally responsive in our current school system, because there's so much on our plates with COVID that cultural diversity and considerations are, I feel, coming last right now. We don't have cultural diversity in our school staffs, especially since people are leaving. We are seeing more and more, I feel like, tension in the US and division between groups of people every year instead of unity. That can be hard. And I feel like we're having less and less training on it. But easy to not be offensive, if that makes any sense. I'm just saying the current COVID environment, I feel like, has really put that on the back burner, and it is sink or swim mode. And people aren't always culturally mindful of how the school is set up, because right now it's like, get these kids on grade level. That's kind of my opinion. I hope y'all have a good week and a good spring break.